Hey everyone, it's Phoenix, and I'm going to make a video today showing off the major update for Srendarr. This has been something that I've been working on for quite a while, and I know I've mentioned it a few times, but it is actually in a pretty much finished state. I'm going to release it on my Patreon early before the big update for High Isle for anyone who wants to help beta test it. But for the most part, the functionality is there, and it is really super cool. Mainly the prominent system being completely overhauled. It used to be where you could only set, like, you had two bars that were special bars, and you could only set auras or buffs to, and they had to be buffs. You couldn't use AoEs or debuffs on the player, and they were only for the player, and you could only assign special cases to track auras on one of those two bars. It was really limiting, but basically with this update, I'm going to go ahead and say that it is set up so you can put any buff on any bar. And that is coupled with the fact that I actually added more bars. So Srendarr itself has actually got 14 player customizable bars now. I added 4 new bars here. So you've got a ton of different bars. You can configure how all of them look. Lots of cool little improvements, like if you see the tooltips over here are now anchored up at the top right, so they're out of the way so they don't overlap stuff anymore. Also, these custom menus that I had to hook into lib add-on menu will now not show the tooltip for the actual panel here, and if you click on the panel by accident instead of an option, it won't close the panel anymore, and it won't like fake open the panel anymore when you click on the header. And each one has its own tooltip, so that's just little cool stuff. But the main update is the prominent system. So this has all been cleaned up quite a bit here. You can still assign group and raid buff and debuffs, and there's options for different things, but these haven't changed. The prominent system, though, has been completely changed. So you'll notice right off the bat, it's just one little panel, and it's all consolidated into one little section that fits on the screen. So what you can still do is you can type anything you want, type an ID or the name of an aura that you want to add to a bar, and you can search for it by hitting add. So, and then you can, before you search, you set, or before you add, you can set the different options. This is usually something you probably don't want to do. I mean, you can. There's no problem doing it. But what I recommend now with the way it's set up now is to use one of these. So as you can see right here, it says add recently seen aura. And in the tooltip there, I'll move it into a dark section so you can actually read it. Click to show recently detected auras in various categories. The various categories are PB, and if you look at the tooltip, it's player buffs, player debuffs, target debuffs, and AoE. So as you are doing things in the game, Srendarr will keep track of different auras that you've actually seen, that you would be able to set to a specific bar. And so when you click on one of those, its displayed aura will, clicking a displayed aura. Okay, so let me go back to the starting because it's out of context. Click to show recently detected auras. So when you click one of those, it's going to actually bring up a little cool thing here. So, and then when it says, if you click one of those in the list, then it's going to populate all of this stuff here in the panel with that. So like if I wanted to add bound armaments, if I wanted to add hurricane, this in the final version you won't see duplicates here. I think probably the reason why that's duplicating, well, there's different IDs that show up. For some abilities have 2 IDs, but in the final version you're only going to see 1, since by adding them here it's going to be adding them by name, so it gets all the IDs anyway. So that's just a duplicate, but as you can see, it's populating all the stuff here. Buff and which is the type, and the target are grayed out because since it was detected in player buffs, but now if like Okay, I don't have any debuffs, but let me really quick do a roll dodge here. Alright, so that should add dodge fatigue to that. So you'll see that if I bring that up and I click on a debuff, it actually knows that it's a debuff. It'll pre-populate that for you, pre-populate the name as the game sees it, so it's always going to match when you search for it. The big reason for doing it this way is that when you search for it, it's like it's guaranteed that that's the correct name and the information is correct. You can manually type in things and search for and add them that way. And it doesn't pre-populate what bar you want to display it on, obviously, because it doesn't know where you want to put it, but you'll have to pick a bar, and then you hit add remove. So what I'll go ahead and do here is, let's see, let's do dark deal, and let's go ahead and add. So before I do that, let me show you right now is, so for right now, dark deal shows up down here in my setup. This is like my bar 6, I think. The way I have it set up is my bar 4 is up here to the left of the center of my screen, and bar 8 is over on the right. So I hit 2 sections where I want to keep track of really important things. Normally dark deal is not a really important thing, but just for the sake of this, I'm going to actually, instead of having it here in bar 6, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to add it to bar 4. So we'll show recently seen player buffs, click on dark deal, and we'll pick bar number 4 and we'll add it. Let me go ahead and expand my chat here so you can see it output. The search, as you can see, is also much faster now. I mean, it does still have to search through every aura in the entire game, but I've changed a lot of it, so it's much faster. It's about as fast as it can possibly be. So it says dark deal added to frame 4. And then it just clears everything out for you. So now, if I cast Dark Deal, it's got it in the correct place. So, and then if you go in there and the second row that you see here, these are all of the prominent auras that you actually have already assigned. And so if the ones that show up at the top are going to be any that you added by ID, so they've got the ID first and the name in parentheses. So I'm going to find Dark Deal here and click it and then remove it. So now it's going to, oh, it already ended. So when I cast it again, it's going to be back in its default place. And it says Dark Deal has been removed from prominent list. So that's the general idea. You can do the same thing for like AoEs. This didn't used to be possible, but now you can actually, if you wanted to, you could set like a specific AoE in a different place. Srendarr will still only track player cast AoEs, and that's done on purpose because trying to keep track of every AoE that is around you that is not sourced by the player is a huge mess, and there's no reason to bog the system down with that. But you can put specific AoEs in different frames. Another cool thing is for abilities that like, for example, this crystal weapon, when you cast it, it puts a crystal, well, this little quick timer here is how long you have to use it. And then the other one here is, I'm not sure what the other one is actually. Let's see, in case... Oh, that's probably, okay, so the first one is how long you have to actually light attack something to get the extra damage, and the second one is how long you have the 10% reduced cost for other stuff. So, but what Crystal Weapon is a good example of is when you attack something with it, it puts a debuff on that target as well, which you can see there. I'm not sure what the debuff on the target is actually doing. Oh, I guess because it's... Oh, it reduces the target's armor by 5 seconds. So that 5-second debuff you see on them is actually what that says. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that actually is. It's 5 seconds. So okay, so that made Minor Breach was not actually Crystal Weapon. Okay, so the armor reduction is like a custom thing. It's not a minor or a major thing. It's actually dark. Crystal Weapon has its own 1,000 armor reduction, so that's what that's tracking on the target. The reason I wanted to mention that is because, like, if I go in here and add a player buff, and I add the crystal weapon, if there are instances of auras, or I guess we'll just call them auras because it could be buffs or debuffs or whatever in the game that have the same name, but they're actually the debuff part of that ability. When you first add these, and I'll add, again, I'll just put it in bar 4 for the hell of it, it's going to go ahead and search and find all the IDs. So it's going to put, all the IDs for crystal weapon that it finds in the category that you've detected it. So now if I bring this up, it's going to have crystal weapon in my player buff saved variables. So I've got that in my prominent now. But something cool that Srendarr does now, there's another cool thing where it's now automatically compresses the data into a string to save your, in your save variables file. It saves a lot of disk space, and so it takes less memory. Something else cool that will actually save disk space and memory, so with all these new features you're actually going to be using less memory, is that when you exit, it does a quick check in your anytime you open the Srendarr menu in add-on settings or close it, it's going to check your all of these recently seen aura categories. So after you've played the game for a while and seen most of the things that you use, go ahead and just open up Srendarr's options and then close it. And basically, you only have to do that once, but what it does is if it sees anything in any of those recent categories that it knows, for example, in this case, it knew that, go back in there real quick. It's actually a target debuff. It knew that there was, it doesn't show you the ID here, but it's actually a specific ID of crystal weapon. Srendarr knew that this particular ID of crystal weapon was actually a target debuff because it's seen it on a target as a debuff. So if it finds that it's in your player buffs as an ID that was added for crystal weapon to your, or any of these categories, if it finds that this a particular aura is wrongly categorized for any of its IDs that were added in that category based on all of these categories of things it's actually seen, it'll go ahead and automatically remove just that one ID that's wrong and leave the rest of the ones that are needed for your prominence to actually function in that list. So that will also save database size by removing auras that don't need to be there anyway because they won't do anything. Because when it gets to actually putting things, when Srendarr goes to put things where they need to be, if it's wrongly categorized, it's just not going to do anything anyway. It's just taking up database space for literally no reason at all. So it will now automatically remove those and save space and save memory. So that's another cool thing. And so it's really compact. The whole system fits on this one little, which is really cool. And then, removing things is really easy. So like if I wanted to remove that crystal weapon, right now it's in my bar 4, as you can see right there. If I go in there again and show modify existing prominent auras, and I click on it and remove it, again it's gone from the list here, it's been removed, and it'll go back to wherever its default frame is. Something else is, let's see, what was I going to mention here? If you want to change the frame, this is another cool thing. Like let's go ahead and re-add Dark Deal real quick here because it's an easy one to recast. Put it in frame 4. So even though that's much quicker now, it does still take a while to add it, to search through all those. But something cool now is that once you've added something, if you click on whatever category it's in and you find it in the list here and click on it, it knows it's going to show you here, okay, well, you've assigned this one to frame 4. If I wanted to, I could actually change that and hit update, and it's just instantly going to change that. So now it's going to be wherever, my frame 8, I guess, is down there. But it will instantly change your existing configured auras to be in a different frame if you want. And I guess there's something about that feature that's not working. So there's a bug that obviously I need to fix before I release it. Like I said, this is still in beta. It's mostly working. That particular feature, though, obviously needs to be corrected. But basically, when this is ready to put out the update, you can change the frame that it's in without having to wait for it to be re-added, and you can also change the this is kind of cool too. The only player cast option used to only be available for debuffs, and so now what you can do is when you add a prominent, you can actually set whether or not before you click add you want to only look for this particular special aura when it was cast by the player or when it was on you from anything. So if you for whatever reason only wanted to track a certain buff like major force, I guess, which you would, that's a bad example because you obviously want to know if you've got that from your party's warhorn, but I guess like major expedition, if for whatever reason you only wanted to see when it was on when it was from your cast, you could add that and check this option here, and it's only going to show that buff on you when you were the source of that buff. So that's an option that you can now set for any aura that you set up a custom configuration for. A couple other quick things. There's clear, which basically it doesn't change any of your aura list. It just sets the panel settings back to the default. So if you had typed in something here, or if you had changed these options here or something, you can hit clear, and that will reset all those to the default settings. And then reset recent, if you've got a bunch of stuff in here and you wanted to catch a specific aura, so you were going to do a quick test or something and proc a specific aura so you can find it, you can hit reset. It's going to clear out all these lists. So just a couple of quick things. And again, all of the options have got tooltips up there that are now docked up at the top right of the add-on settings. So before each option, the tooltip was hovering right over the top left of your cursor. So if you were trying to read a big complex tooltip, like here, this whole text thing that you see up at the top right would be like hovering over all this other text, and it was really just headache creating to try and read what it actually said, because you had text overlapping text with a semi-transparent background. So that's like, there's a whole bunch of stuff like that that's been updated. So this has been a big project, and it's really cool to see it come together. So I look forward to releasing this. It should be out before the 6th, because I definitely want to get it out for the big update, but it will be ready when the High Isles go live. And I'm going to get it up probably before that, like I said, so people who want to help beta test, because there are always going to be little tweaks that need to be made, like that one I just found. So if you want to help me find those, I'll probably have a beta version out later today. So that'll be something anybody who wants to grab that, who is already on my Patreon, that'll be available for like the week leading up to High Isle, which is kind of cool. And then just a quick shout out to everyone who is a patron or has donated. I really, really appreciate it. It's helped out a lot. If I could get to a point where I make a couple $100 a month doing add-ons, then I would just keep on doing add-ons forever, because I get just over $500 a month to live on. So being disabled sucks, especially when you're young, because you don't get much money, and where I live I don't have the luxury of a lot of other services. So have internet out here is really expensive because we're in the middle of nowhere and there's not a lot of competition. Electricity is a big thing, and $560 a month is, trying to live on that is very, very difficult to say the least. So the extra couple $100 a month, if I could hit that every month, is like, for me, that's huge. And there's been a couple months recently where people have helped out and I've actually hit that, and it's kept the lights on here, kept me able to afford gas to get to town. So if people could continue to help out with the monthly expenses, I will continue to make add-ons basically and take requests for the foreseeable future as long as I'm physically able. My dad is going to be going in for a pretty major surgery pretty soon here. So right now I'm trying to get my driver's license updated so I can actually drive him to Medford, that's like 200 miles from here, I think, where he's going to have vascular surgery on his legs because I guess his circulation doesn't work anymore and his feet are getting all swollen up, and they say they could go gangrene, so they are going to do some kind of a bypass, like an arterial bypass. I don't know how exactly it works, but the blockages, I guess, are up in his upper thigh areas, so they're going to try and take like a vein from somewhere else and then tie it in so that it bypasses that section of veins and provides blood flow to the lower extremities. It sounds like a pretty major thing, so I'm obviously really worried, but it's also going to be something where he's going to be in the hospital for weeks, so I'm going to have to be able to get around, and so the donations help a ton. So I just wanted to say how much I appreciated that, and if anyone can continue to help out, it basically lets me keep on making add-ons at all. So that is the current update for Srendarr. I will try and get this out later today after I fix that one bug and let you guys play with it. But the new prominent system is super, super cool. I'm really happy with how that came out. And I will hope you're looking forward to that, and I will be looking forward to the update with High Isles. That should be pretty cool. Having new content is always cool. And so I guess everyone out there, stay safe, and I will catch you next time. Bye.